I have nothing to offer but blood, toil, tears, and sweat. He said it on a gray afternoon, May 13th, 1940, standing before a parliament that wasn't sure the country would survive the summer. France was collapsing. The skies felt heavy with fate. And here was Winston Churchill, new to the job, offering not relief, not comfort, not soothing promises, but the price of victory. So let's ask a hard question. Why begin with that? Why in your life should the first move toward courage be that brutal honesty? No sugar, no escape, no fantasy. Because what he meant then still matters now. If you start with illusion, you end with collapse. But if you face the bill in full, if you sign your name on the hard line, you become someone the storm can't bargain with. Picture him at a desk littered with papers, ink staining his fingers, a map pinned with red threads, telegrams arriving like heartbeats. Outside, the Luftwaffe tears the sky. Inside, a small voice of doubt does what small voices do. He answers it with clarity. Name the price and pay it. That's the lesson hidden inside the thunder. Commitment before certainty. We'll walk through a handful of moments from Churchill's letters, speeches, and notes, because he didn't only speak to the House of Commons. He wrote to friends, to family, to colleagues, and to himself. Out of those pages rises a method, not a slogan, a method. And if you apply it today, you don't just feel braver, you become a different kind of leader in your own life. The first step begins with that line, blood, toil, tears, sweat, because it strips away the lie that courage needs comfort. Courage needs clarity. He didn't promise that the path would be short or easy. He promised that the price would be worth it. Tell me, what is the thing you are trying to do that still expects a discount? What goal are you trying to pay for with half measures? Churchill would have taken a pen, circled it, and written, "Pay in full." But honesty alone is not a strategy. After the speech comes the habit. Churchill had a little red sticker he loved to slap on memos. Action this day. It wasn't poetry, it was pressure, but of a clean kind, the kind that moves reality. He learned that in a war you can be brave today and drown tomorrow if you don't move the pieces now. For us, it means converting emotion into motion before it cools. What would your life look like if every intention had a stamped deadline? Not next week, this day. Imagine your desk. Maybe it's a kitchen table. Maybe it's a phone full of reminders you swipe away. Now imagine Churchill at your shoulder, tapping the screen, and in that baritone growl saying, "Fine words, but show me ink on the order." He knew that our spirit is a fire that needs a grate. Clear tasks, specific times, ruthless focus. Not 1,000 wishes, one order, one thrust. Action this day. During the long nights of 1940, he repeated another line that you've heard so often it's almost been sanded smooth. We shall fight on the beaches. He listed every place because he needed a psychology of layers. If one defense failed, another would take over. If the air fell, the sea would carry it. If the sea failed, the land would speak. For your battles, it's the same. If Plan A breaks, Plan B breathes. If today collapses, tomorrow inherits the mission. You build a chain that refuses to snap just because one link is tested. But here's the hinge moment, the part most people skip. On August 20th, 1940, Churchill praised the fighter pilots who had held the line when Britain was alone. Never in the field of human conflict was so much owed by so many to so few. Listen closely. He wasn't only speaking of the pilots, he was teaching an economy of effort. Find the few decisive actions that change the whole campaign. You can't fight everywhere. Choose the battles that decide everything else. What are your Spitfires? What are the few brave minutes in your day that determine the fate of the rest? Is it the first hour after you wake? The 5 messages you've been avoiding? The one difficult conversation you keep delaying? We overflow our calendars and then wonder why our victories are thin. Churchill would say, protect the few, escort them, fuel them, because when the few are strong, the many sleep under their wings. But even lions have shadows. The black dog, that's what he called his depression, didn't stop visiting just because he was prime minister. He learned to build relief into his war. He painted, he walked, he read, not as escapism, but as repair. He wrote about painting as a pastime, as if color itself could be a counteroffensive, a way to reclaim ground that fear had seized. And that leads to the second principle. You cannot hold out indefinitely if you do not renew. Victory is not an endless sprint. It's a series of recoveries. There's another side to his letters that matters. Humility enforced by love. In 1940, Clementine Churchill, his wife, wrote a frank letter urging him to soften his sharpness with staff. It's famous because she dared to tell the truth in a storm, and it mattered because he listened. Leadership without listening is just loudness. The lesson is surgical. You can maintain iron resolve and still bend your tone. You can be unyielding with your purpose and gentle with your people. That combination is how movements last. Now jump forward to March 5th, 1946. The war is over, but Churchill walks onto a new stage in Fulton, Missouri, and says, with that same weight, that from Stettin in the Baltic to Trieste in the Adriatic, an iron curtain has descended across the continent. It wasn't a call to panic. It was a call to boundaries and vigilance. Translate it to your life. You need lines, good ones, clear boundaries about what you'll allow in your mind, in your schedule, in your relationships. The world always wants one more piece of you. Without an iron curtain, your focus dissolves into fog. Think about your attention like a country to be defended. If you let anyone cross with any demand, you lose sovereignty. Churchill laid out the map of Europe not to terrify, but to teach that freedom requires structure. If you draw the lines late, you imprison yourself. If you draw the lines early, you protect the field where your best work grows. Let's stitch these threads together. A hard promise at the start: blood, toil, tears, sweat. A stamp: action this day. A focus on the few decisive moments. A cadence of renewal. And boundaries that guard your attention like a coastline. Notice how each piece reinforces the next. Honesty calls for action. Action demands focus. Focus requires renewal. Renewal depends on boundaries. This is not motivation. It's an operating system. But imagine if we added one more layer, something he said when the House of Commons needed a building after the Blitz. Churchill stood there and argued for the chamber to be rebuilt as it was. Why? We shape our buildings. Thereafter, they shape us. The room molds the debate. The design molds the decisions. In your life, the same truth bites. You shape your routines, and thereafter, they shape you. You shape your desk, your phone, your morning, your circle, and then, without you noticing, they reshape your courage. So what does that look like today? It looks like removing the easy chair that always wins at 9 p.m. It looks like setting the coffee beside your journal for the morning. It looks like pre-writing the first line of the email you fear. It looks like claiming 1 hour, just one, where your phone is a brick and your mind is a runway. If your dwelling is disordered, it shapes you smaller. If your dwelling is disciplined, it shapes you larger. We shape the battlefield, then the battlefield shapes us. There's a story from Churchill's wilderness years, those years out of power when almost nobody wanted him near the levers. He was mocked, sidelined, dismissed. He wrote. He studied. He warned. He kept his files. He prepared not for applause, but for clarity. When the crisis came, he didn't discover courage. He unpacked it. That's the third principle. Store truth in calm so you can spend it in chaos. You don't rise to the occasion. You fall to your level of preparation. And here's where it gets personal. Failure will visit you. Not once, not twice, but in small embarrassments and large breaks. Churchill had Gallipoli carved into him, a catastrophe that cost lives and reputation. It didn't vanish because he later spoke beautifully. You can't reshoot your past, but you can reassign it. He used failure as fuel for pattern recognition. What blinded me? What did I not weigh? Who did I not hear? Then he changed the method. The past becomes a teacher when you ask it the right questions. Now, if you remember only one image from tonight, remember this: a hand slamming a red stamp, action this day, on a single page that truly matters. Let that be your first ritual. If you remember a second, remember a small group of planes arcing through a clouded sky, the few, protected, fueled, decisive. Let that be your canon of priorities. And if you remember a third, remember a curtain. Cold, heavy, immovable, drawn across the distractions that keep breaking your focus. Let that be your boundary. Churchill never argued that bravery erases fear. He argued that purpose pulls you through it. He didn't deny the storm. He named it. And then he set the pieces in motion so that his people could keep going when the wind shifted. If you're carrying a quiet dread about money, about health, about family, about work, don't wait for the dread to yield. Move the first piece anyway. Your courage grows in the act, not in the thought. You might be thinking, this is all grand, but my life isn't a war. True, but crises scale. The same principles hold. The stakes are not measured by headlines. They're measured by meaning. What matters to you is a front line. Treat it with that weight, and you get the kind of clarity that stops you from bargaining with your dreams. Let's circle back to the chamber, to the maps, to the cigarette smoke curling under the lampshade. Can you feel the fatigue in his bones? The way he'd fall into a chair and still reach for one more document? He wasn't a saint. He was stubborn. He wasn't perfect. He was prepared. He wasn't always kind, but he learned to be kinder. Courage is not a statue, it's a workshop. Midway through a hard season, Churchill would sometimes sign a note with 3 letters. KBO. Keep buggering on. Rude? A little. Real? Absolutely. It's the unromantic muscle of resilience. Keep showing up with your whole self. Keep turning the wrench even when the bolt is stuck. Keep writing when the sentence tastes like iron. You don't have to like it. You have to outlast it. Now pause. Look at your week. Where will you place the stamp? What will be your few? Where do you need an iron curtain? Where will you rebuild your chamber so it shapes you stronger? Before we push forward, I want to hear your voice. Which Churchill principle hits hardest for you right now? The red action this day habit, or drawing an iron curtain boundary around your focus? Drop your answer below. And if this helps you build courage, you can actually use tap like and subscribe so we can keep going together. Back to the map. He kept returning to the word victory, not as a wish, but as a destination plotted with pins and arrows and fuel lines and weather reports. For you, victory has to be mapped too. If your goal has no coordinates or dates, you're not serious yet. Put it on the wall. Make it public to yourself. Decide what you're willing to spill for it: time, comfort, ego, and what you will not spend: your integrity, your family, your mind. There's a tenderness threading through all of this that you might miss if you only see the bulldog caricature. Churchill kept pets. He loved children. He painted with colors that felt like daytime after too many nights. Courage that cannot be quiet is not complete. You need a place where no one is watching, where you can recover your voice, where the war language melts and you become simply human again. That softness is not failure. It's fuel. So, if you've been waiting for a sign, stop. Give yourself an order. Write it plainly. Action this day. Send that email. Make that call. Book that appointment. Finish that page. Take that walk. Block that hour. Then protect your few. Front-load your day with the decisive 5%. Then draw the curtain. Guard the gate of your attention. And then, when the edge frays, step away and repair. Paint, read, breathe, so you can return with your spine intact. And when you stumble, because you will, remember Gallipoli and the wilderness years. Remember that the man who shouted hope also swallowed sorrow. Use your failure as a briefing, not a bludgeon. Adjust the plan, change the angle, tighten the circle. Keep going. Now let's anchor this in one more echo from the House of Commons. He stood there after evacuation and said with that defiant cadence, "We shall fight on the beaches." You know the line. But hear what's underneath it. A series of commitments stacked so that one collapse does not equal total defeat. That is your model. Stack your commitments. If the gym breaks, the walk remains. If the walk fails, the stretch survives. If the stretch falls, the breath remains. Layer your defense so that quitting always has to pass through several lines and never finds the last one empty. When Churchill warned that an iron curtain had fallen, some wanted to call him dramatic. History called him accurate. You will face voices that say your boundaries are too strict. Smile. Let them say it. Remember what you're protecting. The field where your best work grows, the place where your few can take off. And when the day runs long, remember the small rituals. Tidy the desk, lay out tomorrow's tools, write one guiding line for the morning. Whisper KBO if you like. You are not waiting for a feeling to grant permission. You are building a structure that makes courage easier to find. If you could stand in that dim office for 1 minute, you'd see what courage looks like up close. It's not grand speeches, though those matter. It's a man, hair disheveled, tie askew, eyes burning, choosing the next right action while the radio murmurs casualty reports. It's unglamorous, it's necessary, and it's yours to copy. So here's the close, as if he were advising you personally. Take the measure of your task and do not lie to yourself about the cost. Offer what you have, then transform your offer into orders. Action this day. Guard the few decisive minutes that decide the rest. Build boundaries like walls and windows, strong enough to protect, clear enough to see through. Renew yourself without apology. And then, when you have done all these things, do them again tomorrow. Not because the world applauds, because the work matters, because your life matters, because somewhere in the fog there is a future version of you who needs you to act now. You don't need to be Churchill to do this. You only need to be the person who refuses to bargain with the truth. The storm is not waiting for your permission. Good, neither are you. I have nothing to offer but blood, toil, tears, and sweat. Say it, and then shape your day so those words become reality. Then watch what happens when fear meets a mind that has already paid the price. And when it gets hard, when it always gets hard, remember the pilots, the few. Keep them fueled, keep them flying. The many will thank you, including the many inside your own life that depend on those few brave minutes. Action this day, not someday. This day, your day. Now go.